Hello, Uganda. Good evening and welcome to this edition of the Hotseat on 933 KFM. I welcome you, our listeners, across this beautiful land, the Pearl of Africa. My name is Patrick Kamara. For some of them, today has been a day of reckoning. They have been waiting for this day. I mean, the rationalization of the departments and agencies of government to come back to their mother ministries. You've known some of those that have been authorities. Government decided they should merge so that they come back to the mother ministries, and that was supposed to streamline and create efficiency in the government and also cut costs. 24 of them are supposed to go back to their mother ministries today, the first day of October 2024, and the others will be coming on the 31st of December 2024. Our colleague here at KFM, our reporter Mike Sebalu, has been super focused on the issues of rationalization of government agencies, and he's been following this story step by step. He's now joining us online. Mike, thank you so much for joining us. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Kamara.
Thank you so much for taking time to be able to explain to this, Mike, because I know you have been following this issue of rationalization of agencies and departments of government. Take us through, Mike, about which organizations are supposed to have gone back to their mother ministry as of today, the 1st of October 2024.
Okay, good evening, dear listeners. As the presenter, my name is Mike Sebalu. I'm a reporter at KFM. Yes, I have been moving closely and watching closely as things unfold as regards the rationalization of government agencies. As we speak today, 24 of them have been merged, others have been mainstreamed, and the others' responsibilities have been reallocated. When we look at the Ministry of Education and Sports, we have 3 agencies that have been moved back to the ministry. These ones we have the Higher Education Institutions Financing Board, we have the National Library of Uganda, and the Uganda National Commission for UNESCO. When we go to the Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities, we have 2 entities. This is the Uganda Wildlife Education Center, which has been merged with the Uganda Wildlife Authority. We also have the Ministry of Public Service, where the National Records and Archives Center has been mainstreamed. Then the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Children, we have the National Youth Council, the National Women's Council, the National Children Authority, the National Council for Disability, and the National Council for Older Persons. Okay,
now you're giving us an example, Mike, of some of these agencies going back. And when they go back exactly, what happens to the staff of these agencies when they got their mother ministry? Will they retain their jobs? How do they explain this as you are following this story?
Okay, as we during the process of following up this story, we have talked to the Commissioner Management Services, who is the manager for RAPEX at the Ministry of Public Service. And she said that these ones which have been referred back, it means people have to apply for jobs. And those who have not qualified for these jobs, they are liable to their packages, which include pension, gratuity, and other packages altogether. According to the Commissioner, government has put aside a total of 74.3 billion Uganda shillings.
So before you bring out the money in billions, the 24 that are supposed to begin today, how much money are we talking about that they're supposed to be paid? But also, what is the workforce in terms of numbers?
Okay. But the total, first of all, the total number of agencies which are going to be affected by RAPEX, they are 60. So out of the 60, the 24 we are talking about now are those ones which deadline has come today. And according to government, a total of 29.6 billion Uganda shillings, 29.6 billion Uganda shillings have been put aside to pay off for the packages, the gratuity, and the pension to 219 people who have been affected by the rationalization under the 24.
Oh, so now we are only talking about 219 who are going to share almost 29 billion, or more than 29 billion.
More than 29 billion.
That's quite some money, isn't it?
Then, in total, there are over 2,500 employees that will be affected. And these will benefit from the 74.3 billion of as a package gratuity and surveillance packages and pension as well.
Okay, so now I'm wondering for today, I don't know whether you've been able to monitor in the offices of those organizations that are supposed to merge. I don't know whether the office is closed today or if people wanted services, how do they go about that?
We have seen some offices closing out, like in the Ministry of Finance, the National Physical Planning Board and the National Preparation Council. Those ones have handed over office to the National Planning Authority because these ones were mainstreamed within the National Planning Authority. So those ones today, they have handed in. Then others have not because of a number of factors. For example, the Free Zones Authority and the Free Zones Authority and the Uganda Export Promotions Board. These ones, they have not yet handed over because initially where these agencies are in place, there must be a board that has to look after their operations.
So if you may, because now the Free Zones Authority and Exports Promotions Board, if they merge, both of them have executive directors. What happens? Who becomes the boss of the other?
According to the commissioner, when such boards are in place, unfortunately, these two, all of them were phased out. And a new institution, a new agency was put in place, which is the Free Zones and Export Promotions Authority, which was created.
Okay.
Apparently, this board, this new authority doesn't have a board. So this goes back to the minister, who is mandated to create this board through a process of nominating people who will sit on this board, which names have to go to cabinet, and the cabinet approves until to form up that board which will oversee.
So, Mike, this also could mean that the two individuals, for example, Executive Director of Export Promotions Board, Dr. Eli Tweneyo, and Executive Director of Free Zones Authority, I think Mr. Hazy Kimome, that they could actually be a new team, entirely new person, new group could come in, and these ones maybe go somewhere else because the two entities have phased out and have created a new one.
Absolutely. Unless when they have, if they apply and they have those qualities, maybe they can come in on the new board. But as per now, according to the advice from the Attorney General, which the Minister has received, these ones have been directed to hand over, apparently, as they work on the process of having the new board for the new structure in place for within a limited time from now to have work starting off for the new entity which has been created.
Are there some officers or duties that are going to be like transfer the functions from one entity to another, and others are just be streamlined? You know what I mean?
Sorry?
Are there some officers who will transfer their functions, whatever they are doing somewhere, will directly be taken to another entity?
Very true. There are certainly institutions whose functions have been totally taken away. For example, there is if I may check here, we have functions which have been taken away. Let me check. There is the one here which is about a minute. I want to check here.
Okay, as you check that, Mike, there is also a possibility that their salaries could actually reduce drastically because they're going to apply afresh, and chances are, in terms of what they earn, this will be completely very different, isn't it?
It is, because according to the ministry, these people are being taken on new terms and conditions of service, which are totally different from where they have been working. So whichever institution they applied and they have been qualified, then they will go with the terms and conditions of that agency away from where they have been earning.
We all know that people who have been working with these agencies have been enjoying very good salaries. So yes, chances are that the good old days are ending today.
They have already ended for today, because once they are employed on a new chapter and a new contract, there are new terms and conditions which they have to go by.
You also mentioned that money, about 29 billion, that is supposed to pay either severance package or gratuity and all this, is already in the budget for 2024. Is the minister confirming that? I'm asking this because we have seen some people back in the day, like people who were working in the Uganda, East African Railways in the 70s. Up to today, they are still demanding for their pay.
True. I have the same question I have asked the commissioner,
okay,
and she was very elaborative. She said the 29.06 billion shillings for these 24 agencies employees, they have already available, and they have been allocated under the supervising agencies of these respective ministries where these agencies have been working, where they have been undergoing supervision for paying off these workers and on time. So money is in the budget already, and they are ready to go.
And if you could also refresh our mind, in totality, how much money is it for the 60 agencies, including those who are supposed to merge by 31st of December?
The entire budget is 74.3 billion Uganda shillings.
What is the rationale, Mike? I don't know whether you have asked the minister why they have to reapply, but also to interview them. They also to provide the academic credentials. Yet we know these have been public officials. They have gone through the same process.
We did not throw that question to her, fortunately. But as you may recall, of the past, government has been doing the cleaning exercise within the payroll. So, and now that these people are being taken on a different contract altogether, so they are subjected to applying for the new job, and these people are cross-examined, and whoever is deemed fit, then they'll start off the process of negotiations and whatsoever. So this might be one of the ways government has decided to further scrutinize some of these public servants as they apply for this new job.
Mike Sevalu, our reporter here at KFM, I want to thank you so much for having brought us to speed on what is going on in the rationalization and merger of government agencies. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much to Kabara.
We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we shall be joined by an economist, Dr. Fred Muhumuza. Welcome back to 933 KFM, and this is the Hot Seat. My name is Patrick Amar, and we're talking about the rationalization and merger of government agencies. This movement began sometime back, but today, 24 agencies are supposed to have merged and back to the mother ministries, and that affects about 219 individuals. And their money, we have been told, is available about 200 the 29 billion. We are joined now by an economist, a lecturer at School of the Makerere University Business School, Dr. Fred Muhumuza. Thank you so much for joining us, sir. Good evening.
It is a pleasure. Good evening, Kamara and the listeners out there.
I know we have talked about these mergers, rationalization of agencies, and it is happening, or it has happened today, the 1st of October. Your take, and I'm sure you have also listened, if you had time, to our reporter Mike Sebalu try to put the numbers of the people, the figure in terms of the package that probably will be paid, and how some of the people who are going to transfer their function to their mother ministries, how they are going to go through it. Your appreciation of these issues.
Yes, and I really want to credit Severu, your reporter. He has done a good job in giving a good background.
I think he did, yes.
But also to really congratulate whoever has been involved on the side of government for bringing this process to this level. As you can see, it is very, very complex. Computations of who goes back to the ministry, computations of which agencies get merged and why, and then also making sure people will have their terminal benefits, those who must have their terminal benefits, but also trying in as much as possible to absorb those who can be absorbed. And I think one of the last conversations from Sevalu was about the executive directors of the free zones and the export promotions.
Yes.
Who should be in charge of the merged institution. Literally, you say none of the above automatically, so each one of them can qualify. But because now the job description is changed, the appointing authority and the board have to redo that JD, and I hope that has already been done in view of the merged mandate, so that you can identify who is best suited to lead the technical side of the new organization. And it is only fair that you open up that advert, because the JD has changed. You can't just say the other one will deputize this one, you bring more complications, but also you may not get the right match you want in view of the current circumstances. It's only fair that that job gets re-advertised and the fresh adverts are done, and people come in from all sorts, including the two that have been in the current position, and of course they would have an added advantage of being known to their actors in that space.
But also, you are congratulating government for having done this, but it appears that it has not has been as efficient as it should have been, because some people as of today do not know where to go, do not know when they wake up tomorrow, what kind of functions to do. That really is going to cause a lot of stress and anxiety and even depression, I suppose.
No, not necessarily depression, because as I've said, that process has actually been on. There are already staff who have already contracts at the new places. Because I know the process that has been happening on the Population Council and those that are going into NPA, that process has been ongoing to identify the people who will go in. And as I've said, whoever doesn't go in, there is a provision for them. It usually happens in the work world that people's jobs change and there is a transitional phase that can be tricky. So you want to really, as I've said, congratulating government for a tricky process. Could have been worse. Now, there are issues that, as I have said, which could have been done better. Because when I hear from Sevalu, you do not have a board yet for the merger of free zones and export promotion. Somebody ought to have synchronized that, because we knew the new agency was coming in 1st of October. So the board should have come in already. The board should have identified the ED to take over, so that the staff who are supposed to work under the new merged entity also working. But those are teething problems that I think can be resolved. But it's absurd that we find ourselves on 1st of October and the board is not in place and also. But that said, the minister still retains the power, because most cases, board is a delegated authority. So that authority is sitting with somebody who can take prerogatives and appoint an acting executive director as the formal processes are going on.
But also, let's look into the issue of pay, because let's face it, they have been enjoying some good salaries in the authorities. It may not be the same when they merge, but also a good salary in some cases is an incentive for you to work hard and deliver on the expectations. Isn't this likely to dent service delivery and performance, especially when they find themselves maybe getting a half or a quarter of what they were earning earlier?
Two things to that. You are saying it may, because the new salary might actually be better than what these two.
Okay. Yes.
Because now the mandate has been merged. So even if themselves they were to come back and compete and win, they have a negotiation side to say, by the way, I was earning that on the half mandate. Now that's a double mandate, it's a negotiated salary. So they might actually get it better than the other one. But also, as we have said, it may not be any of the two. It could be a completely new person for whom even that old salary might be his first salary of its kind. So instead of the spaces of May, let's wait and see what happens. Some people will accept and say, well, I'm ready to take the cut, but remain on the job. Those are individual decisions. If you're not happy, you don't sign on the dotted line.
Are you really convinced, Dr. Muhumuza, that some people could find themselves earning more? Because I thought one of the push factors for the merger was to cut on the costs.
Yes, some individuals may earn more, but the cost now in this case that goes off, remember now you had two boards. You are going to have one board. So that is part of where the savings are supposed to be coming from. We were occupying two different office spaces. Now they are going to occupy one same space, and the jobs could be merged for some of these individuals. So those were some of the areas where you save in partly the human resource cost, numbers reduced, the boards reduced, but also there are those overheads of rent that we are paying in two different places, the vehicles people are using, and board costs. In Uganda, some of these boards are earning retainers monthly, whether they sit or not, and the retainer is as big as the ET's salary. I don't know what these ones were earning, but these are just examples of where the savings were expected to come from, and I want to believe they will be there.
So when these agencies were created back in the day, they were supposed to cure a problem. They were supposed to create efficiency. They were supposed to improve on service delivery. I'm wondering, I know this is an old question, perhaps you have used and answered it before. I'm wondering whether those push factors are no longer at play as we speak.
They possibly are, but between me and you, there is always a change of a modality of delivering the mission. You can change the mission if you think the conditions have changed, and you can now deliver still on the same result, but using a different strategy and mechanism. So I believe that is possible. We didn't have artificial intelligence. We didn't have the internet the way we do. We didn't have more skilled people who can multitask. But also you can retain all these stuff, and the only thing you're changing is the top. I don't need two boards to solve this same problem. We are now even actually thinking, like you look at Free Zones Authority. They would have an industrial park, which would be called a Free Zones Place, and every factory in that space would be classified as an export-oriented because it's supposed to be exporting 80% of its product and would qualify for certain benefits. But it had to be in that space that has been developed by the Free Zones Authority. Now we have tea. Kamara, you come from Toro. All those factories of tea are exporting their tea. Don't they qualify to be benefiting from the free zones incentives, even when they are not located in a free zone that is next to Entebbe Airport? So the policies can change and say whoever is in this category, exporting 80% or more of their produce, but they are also in a strategic entity like coffee, like tea, it doesn't matter where you're geographically located, we will give you these benefits. Now, those have changed. To do that, I may not necessarily need an entire free zone to manage that process because there's no industrial park to manage. The function has disintegrated, but still I'm delivering on the same objective of promoting exports.
On the issue of promoting exports, Dr. Muhumuza, sometimes there's a little bit of confusion there because sometime back, I think the president appointed a person to also, promote exports. I think Mr. Odrick Rwabwogo, and I'm told with quite a good budget for that. And yet you have the Free Zones Authority, you have Exports Promotions Board, and now the other. Sometimes you wonder, isn't government maybe taking two steps, one step off ahead and two steps backward in that regard?
Quite a good addition to the conversation because, as you said, these entities were set up to promote exports. Now, how come the president, in his wisdom and capacity, creates another parallel situation? Is he dissatisfied with the performance of these institutions? Or are there other factors playing that need to be brought into play and be considered? Can we go back and say, how best can we promote exports? I was having a conversation with people this morning, colleagues I don't want to mention because we are still working on more detailed policy proposals to give the decision makers on the importance of the exchange rate in terms of promoting exports. So you cannot even leave the central bank itself when it comes to promotion of exports because the competitiveness of Uganda is by and large, to a large degree, dependent on the level of the exchange rate. So we see not in the domain of any of these agencies we are talking about. So don't we need another strategy to discuss how best can we compete? The evidence I have on the table, Tanzania was exporting to us goods worth $50 million about 10 years ago. Today that is $1.2 billion of what we are importing from Tanzania. So we have lost Tanzania. What happened? These two agencies were there. Was there a space that they did not occupy? Were they the ones to occupy? Shouldn't we be thinking of a new strategy, a new system of work? I think that's the space where we are.
But maybe they could argue that we have more or less balanced our trade, or even better with Kenya. Maybe we could say we have increased our volume with the Democratic Republic of Congo. Actually, we are better than Tanzania there. And of course, South Sudan.
Yeah, but also when you read the East African of this week, you realize Tanzania has inched into the DRC market. DRC has been our third largest destination of export.
Yes.
Now Tanzania, not only has it captured the Ugandan market, is also capturing the DRC market. So you want to go back and say, what should be my strategy in terms of export promotion? What institutional arrangements should we have? Which conversation goes back to why are we now only looking at public service? Public service was only handling the human resource aspect. The functionality was supposed to be handled by other government agencies. What did they do? What did they not do? Has it been done? We want to be looking into all these discussions, but of course the prime thing coming on this is the human resource.
Okay.
And public service did their part. Who areas were supposed to be in this space? What did they do? We are yet to open that box.
Dr. Fred Muhumuza, we're going to take a break. When we come back, I want to ask whether you think the people who are affected have been prepared, mentally, somebody talk to them, or financial management skills for those who are going to get lump sums of money. We'll be right back. Welcome back to 933 KFM, and this is the Hot Seat. My name is Patrick Amara. My guest joining me online is an economist, Dr. Fred Muhumuza, who's a lecturer at Makerere University Business School. And we're talking about the merger of government agencies and rationalization. There was a case, I think, of the employees of the East African, I think East African Airways and other entities, East African Post and Telecommunications, and those that seized in the 70s. I've met an old man who's up to today, he's still demanding for his package. I worry for this stuff. Is my worry founded in any? Does it hold any water? Dr. Muhumuza, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
There is a case of employees of the defunct East African entities that ceased to exist in the 70s. I have met an old man who still demands for payment for his gratuity or something like that. I worry for the employees of today whether actually the money will come on the accounts.
I think those are some of the lessons that have informed the current design, to say, much as these people had already been hired out by, let's say, their boards, because many of them were not necessarily hired by public service, but government in its wisdom said, I need a centralized agency arm of government to take off the winding up and compensation of these individuals. We know the ones like in Coffee Marketing Board, some of the privatized agencies, the view was the proceeds of privatization would go to their repayment. But that was not well worked out. So the proceeds are going to this account, and from this account, this is how they will be paid. That kind of laxity and lapse is partly why we have this situation. But in this case, the budget was coming from the central government because it was the one responsible for capitalizing these agencies. And the budget has been provided as it has been indicated 74 billion for all of them. But for those that are in this phase of 1st of October, that money is available. If anything goes wrong, maybe we'll check. Uganda has all the surprises. It could become like the competition of the cooperatives. that was provided and then disappeared into other pockets. But I'm hopeful that this time the process will make sure the people are compensated and well paid.
You know, in some cases, and I'm saying this with a lot of respect, there are some public entities where you find, there's some degree of incompetence. They're ineffective. Sometimes they're big, and there's a lot of bureaucracy, and really service delivery is minimal. And now, yet in these agencies, it is these were working formulas that could turn around things. So you merge them with an entity that is slow, is ineffective, is incompetent, and is known for bureaucracy. I still wonder why this move was taken, because they could get infected with this kind of incompetence.
Of course, you are right, and there have been a lot of incompetence, especially on allegations or statements about incompetency, especially in the area of speaking with UCDA, going back to the Ministry of Agriculture. Many people have expressed reservation. Now, these are things you want to add on the table for rationalization. And let's not forget that this rationalization of agencies was also to be extended and should be extended across the entire government, because it was rapid. Rationalization of agencies and the public expenditure. Now, the public expenditure, we are touching many other segments of government besides the agencies. And I think that conversation should not be lost out. We still have to extend and complete the entire RAPEC, prepare the ministries what kind of structure and staffing they should have in order to deliver on these mandates that are going to them, including just supervision, because not every agency has been sent back to the ministries. But now the ministries have got raised their bar in terms of supervising the boards that are going to be in place, the staff that are going to be in place. As I've said, to get to the ultimate objective, the military, they call it the commander's intent. And all this was about increasing exports. And we are saying we are losing out on that front. We are not gaining the expected gain on exports. So what has gone wrong? We don't want to rationalize agencies and still lose that core objective of the rationalization agenda.
You're talking about public expenditure, but is the government not really also forgetting that there's a hemorrhage of resources going through these administrative centers? For example, there are many RDCs. Recently, they appointed quite a big number. I think there were deputy RCCs and deputy RDCs. And on top of that, I think we are also likely to have more municipalities come on board and more cities come on board. All these units, if somebody put together, there could be over 1 million elective positions in Uganda, and all of them perhaps are going to draw a salary. If we are going to cut expenditure, it has to be looked into in totality.
Yes, you are right, and that's why I'm saying let's not fight agencies. The mission here was to cut expenditure, and I don't even look at it as cutting expenditure to do any savings, because there are no savings. We are only reducing on the need to borrow to pay for and to run these agencies. So the whole conversation nationalized so that you reduce on the government deficit, then you have to borrow to finance things that you can still get the same results through alternative ways, and we're looking for those alternative ways. So we still need to get back to the entire spectrum of government. The local governments are many. Is there anything we can do about that? The size of parliament, is there something we can do about that? And ultimately, at the end of the day, you are looking for money to deliver on what is really core. For me, as the president has always mentioned, the security of person and property and the country is key. Now, you don't want to wake up one morning and you don't have sufficient money to finance your security, which is core, but also after securing security, you still now want to use that security to improve the welfare of the people and the economy. You don't want to say, I'm secure and that's all and my money is finished. You will still get back to an insecure situation. So this conversation was really on how best can the government deploy its money to serve and resolve the challenges in this economy going to the future.
Dr. Fred Muhumuza, an economist and lecturer at the School of Economics, I want to thank you so much for having given us such a wonderful submission into the issue of rationalization. I want to thank you, sir.
Thank you, and thank you. Goodbye to our listeners.
We're going to take a break. And welcome back to 933 KFM, and this is the Hot Seat. My name is Patrick Amar, and we're discussing the rationalization and the merger of government agencies. Some of them are going back to their mother ministries. We have heard from our reporter who was just giving us the detail on how things are going to be, but we have also had an analysis from Dr. Fred Muhumuza, who's an economist. Now we are joined online by the CEO of Great Lakes Safaris, Mr. Amos Wekesa. Thank you so much for joining us, Amos. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Brother Patrick. I remember I should have called you sometime. But how are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. So, Amos, do you think this merger, rationalization, is going to fuse into the kind of energy that has been missing in the public sector? So now, service delivery will be efficient?
I'm just not sure about the service delivery bit of it, but I think it's good that government of Uganda has started realizing that we have all these organizations, but there's no productivity. I mean, you can see you cannot have an economy that is not growing, and yet you have so many people employed that are non-productive. I think sometimes it's good to sit and actually reflect and ask yourself, can we still export if Uganda export promotion does exist or doesn't exist? Can the forest be kept if National Forest Authority doesn't exist? Can people continue to eat if Agriculture Minister wins? Those kind of questions. Can tourism continue working when that is it's good to reflect on that. And then all these organizations must know that if they don't run like businesses, the country can't run. The reality about life is that you cannot collect money from taxes, as taxes from businesses, and money is spent like a non-government organization where there is no proper value on return. The country never grows like that. And don't forget that.
But Amos, it looks like these agencies, when you compare them with the mother ministries in the public sector, they seem to have had an edge in terms of efficiency, in terms of service delivery. You could actually see an entity that seems to be working.
I don't think so. When we see a failed country is a collection of failed individuals, failed companies, failed entities, right? When you can only collect about 25 trillion shillings in an economy which majorly goes towards the repayment of debt, it means there's no productivity actually in the country. Now, even you have to borrow in order for you to look after your consumption. That's a very dangerous step. So if you say there was activity and productivity, then what does productivity mean? It must lead to the bottom line. That's why money is called a bottom line. All these organizations existing must go back to the bottom line. I also believe that the merger is still going to further help us understand that some of the ministries we have are unnecessary. I hope that then we'll make really, really serious decisions and be able to cut down the ministries. Because the existence of this ministry actually means having a bloated cabinet. If you go to Kenya, how many cabinet secretaries do you have? About 22, 25? That's all you have. And ours we have, 88 ministers. I meet some of the ministers, sometimes I have no idea who they are. They say it is a minister, like a minister of what? It should also speak to a much bigger, wider challenge that we have. A bloated parliament, you have 529 members of parliament. Are they necessary? How much money they cost this country? It goes down to, all those elected members of society. I'm told in 2021 we had close to 2.2 million people elected across the country to lead a population of 45.9 million people, of which about 56% are 18 years and below. That is dangerous. So I think that it's a good thing that government is doing. We must cut back on the cost of running a country, especially investing in what do they call it? It's more like social service. Because for you to invest in in social services. I was telling people the other day, sorry to cut it short. I was telling people the other day that what are the 4 factors that bring people, for example, to the city? And that should inform how the leadership of a city must be elected or appointed. The number one is people come to a city to look for economic opportunities. Then the economic opportunities lead to a better health environment because you have people who are paid well, you have doctors who are paid well, you're able to have good health services. Because there's economic activities, the other side factor comes in, that's security. Because people can be paid well, they can secure a city. The 4th factor is education. That's why you see universities, good universities and good schools always are close to a city. Why? Because there's economic activities. So the 3 services are mainly social services, but the main thing that brings people to a city and to a country is actually economic development. Economic development then should inform expenditure on social services. That's basic thinking.
Amos, when you look at our public sector now, is our problem poor work ethos? Is our problem poor facilitation? Is our problem people who are not prepared to work? Where is the problem?
I think is that government in general does not work as a business, and somehow people in government keep saying we cannot be working like private sector. There is no country in the world that has developed when you don't have government members working like private sector with a private sector mindset. Today, the president of Rwanda has appointed a new chief officer for tourism in Rwanda, and she's been picked at a very high level in private sector banking. Now, because for them they work with targets. You know, for tourism in Rwanda, every, I think, 21 days you must inform the president where Rwanda has appeared right. You must inform them about proper statistics of how much money they're making in different avenues. And that way you are able to actually get results. Now, people used to undermine. If you go to Rwanda today, you must be a very special case to not see the progress that they're actually achieving because of mindset thinking. So I am in a support of a government working like a private sector for a country to ever grow.
You must be excited, especially now that you're coming from the tourism sector. I have since seen a video that I should say is really very interesting that I'm told is going to be running soon on CNN and other major channels about the tourism potential for Uganda. That, for me, looks like an entity that is working, an entity that is projecting its ability, punching above its weight.
The thing is that you can see the last time Uganda had a campaign that was consistent for 6 months, it was something run under Odrek Robogo in 2007. It ran for 6 months, and that's the only time the government of Uganda has ever done anything.
That was the gifted by nature.
Yes, it's to run anything consistently for 6 months. And many Ugandans do not know the difference between $1 million and $1 billion. A lot of Ugandans went around saying, "Oh, $1 billion was given to Odrek." I laughed. It was $1 million. It was that time, I think it was about 2.2 billion shillings in the Ministry of Tourism and Trade at the time. And it was one of the best engagements, I think, in my own opinion, because we need to be on the bigger TV. Now, seeing something now, I'm told I've signed it up for about 3 months. We don't need to sign this thing up for next trip. If the PSST, Minister of Finance, is listening, we need to be signing this thing for at least 5 years, and have it consistently running. Because you can't run something for 3 months, then you go back through procurement, then you're competing with countries like Rwanda that on, SPSG, their own Arsenal, run Tanzania, even just an island called Zanzibar as Chelsea, you can't compete, my friend. That's why our statistics right now today show that in 2023, Tanzania got 1.8 million tourists from Europe alone, and Uganda had less than 1.5% of that. We got about 24,500 from the whole of Europe combined. It's a sad story, but it's because we've not been serious.
You know, Amos, I have listened to you, Amos, at some point. Complimenting the Ugandan civil service and the Ugandan workers. Actually, at one point you said when a Ugandan public servant makes a presentation in any of these regional capitals in Nairobi or Lusaka or Kigali, people are waiting to pick on that presentation because why? Ugandans know how to put things right. So we seem to have the right people there with the right innovation, with the right ideas. So we fail maybe to implement our real ideas and make them look good. So,
but think about this. Ugandans are actually we have a very good, well-educated population in terms of class. But you should read a book that is titled "Time to Stop Talking and Taking Action." They say talk. The Chinese say talk can't cook rice. It means that you need water and fire for rice to be cooked. Now, Ugandans, we have unfortunately reached a stage in our lives where we think talking is actually a sign of intelligence. It's a completely wrong. Action is what makes the difference. You've been with us, for example. We remember when on this radio station.
Yes.
About 8 years ago, we spoke about Rwenzori Marathon. You remember?
Mm-hmm.
You remember Simon committing us for Coca-Cola and saying we are going to provide water?
Yes.
Now, if I continue talking about Rwenzori Marathon, would you trust what I say?
I'll trust more what I see that has been done.
Now, yeah. So Ugandan public service think that ability to speak English and do presentations, which are actually sometimes some of the best presentations. I remember guys from Zambia one time when Windsor Hotel in Nairobi, they said when you see a Ugandan public servant presenting, rush to pick their paperwork. We also know they want to implement. That for me is such a bad thing because accountability for Uganda is press. It's not real action, There's no one who's putting them under action to see whether they delivered on anything.
All right, Amos, I want to thank you. And by the way, I've just received a message here from Senior Presidential Advisor, Mr. Moses Byarahanga, who is also bringing us to speed that the video I saw somewhere is actually running on CNN. And I must compliment the guys who made that video. It looks beautiful and it really brings out the beauty of Uganda that is truly a country that is gifted by nature. And by the way, the 30th Uganda International Trade Fair has already begun today, and we can also be able to position ourselves and position the country better. Amos, what's going to be your parting shot?
I think we have a extremely nice country that is being over-gifted. We have good food, we've got good weather, and Ugandans are not necessarily bad people. Ugandans just want to see action. And I think while we are pushing government to do their part, as individuals as well, we should not sit back and wait for government to do things. We need probably to push them.
Edition of the Hot Seat. Join us again tomorrow, same time, same station. Good night and God bless Uganda.